Welcome to GSAP crash course. So in this crash course, we are going to cover the basics of GSAP. We are going to look at GSAP animations. We are going to look at different methods of GSAP. We'll also look at some GSAP plugins like ScrollTrigger, where we experience not only just the tween animations, but also experience how to add scroll-based animations in your application, the way you are seeing like here on this website. We shall also add nice features like scrub, which actually ties the scroll onto the scroll position, the way you are seeing like here. So we try to learn most of these animations that you're going to find common into your website. Okay, so after that, we just also put them together into a project that we are going to build. As you can see, we are going to build a food landing page. Okay, we build this food landing page and we try to put all these animations we have studied into practice. Okay, so I've prepared a starter code. You can just grab it onto this link. I will put this link in the description. So get this this link and then you can start with me and you code along. Okay, so just go to this code and download this zipped file, and then you can have this folder with all the code. Okay, so the first step is going to look at how do we install GSAP and also what is GSAP. So GSAP is an animation library. So previously there are some other animation libraries like Animate on Scroll, there is Wow.js, there is CSS animations where you can use Animate CSS, but GSAP is a very powerful animation library that does very advanced animations. And the GSAP in full is GreenShock animation platform, and you can just click on this get started. Okay, and when you click on this get started, by the way, this is their new website. This is not the website they had previously. They have made it somehow modern, and I really like the way it looks. It is really nice. So on the installation, click on the installation. So GitHub is divided into two. The first part is the free part. You can see, make sure everything you are on the free version. There is a club version of GSAP which is paid. So on the club, you have to sign up and pay subscription, but then you are going to use this free one, which is very okay. So make sure you are on to this free and click on CDN, and then you can grab this CDN here, this link here, and you are going to use this one. So I'm just going to go to my folder. Okay, onto the installation, you simply place this link. Let me go to actually lesson 2 instead. Let me open here where I'm just going to show you how to install. Okay, so just copy this link here and just bring it and paste it onto this line. So in this way, you just have connected GSAP to your project, and you can start looking at different animations. Okay, then I'm just going to create here my app.js. So create app.js, and then in app.js is where we're going to write our own JavaScript for animating items into this project. So if you look at this project, inside here I have the body, and inside the body I have the container. Inside the container I have this class of ball, and then down here I've put this script, and then I also have this JavaScript here. Okay, so I'm just going to run this to go live. And when you go live, you see I have this item, and then I have this dark background. And if I check in my CSS, you can see I have the body, and then I also have this container which has a background and height, and then I also have this ball here which is 100 pixel by 100 pixel with the background, and I end up with this one. So the first type of animation you're going to look at is, we are going to look at tween animations, and wherever they reference on tween, really they just referencing onto the animation. There is nothing big that word carries, but just simply animations. Okay, so in our app.js, I'm just going to first alert like it's working. I always just use this line for testing, and you can go here and you can see the JavaScript is working. So let's first talk about how do we use GSAP. So when you bring in GSAP, it exposes this object called GSAP. So they have this object called GSAP. They expose it, and it has a lot of methods. Okay, and from these methods we are able to animate our items or our objects. So for instance, we are going to start with the first method, which is GSAP the to method. Okay, the to method, and the to method of GSAP, it will put animations from, so it will take this, for instance, if you're animating this ball, it will take these ones to be the initial properties of the animation, and then it will change to the new ones. And okay, and on animations, really we are only changing some of these properties of the item. For instance, you can change width, you can change height, you can change border radius, background, you can change so many things. Okay, so let's see how we can apply these two methods. The syntax of applying all methods on GSAP: you have the GSAP object, and onto this object you call the method you want to use, and then after this method you put the brackets, then you pass in the selector, and then you put comma, and then you pass in the var object. Okay, so this var object is the one that is going to contain the properties of this selector that you are trying actually to animate. So in this case, we are going to say GSAP, and then we call the to method. Okay, and then we pass our selector, and into this case we want to animate this ball, so I pass in dot ball. Here I'm just going to say dot ball, and then pass in the object, and this object can contain all the properties that you want to animate. Let's say you want to move this from the position it is right now here, and want to move it into X. So we can move like transform translate X, and instead of saying transform translate X, you simply only put X, and then you specify the number of pixels you want actually to move it. So I can just say you move it by maybe 300 pixels, and I can say let it take about 2 seconds to move for this 300. So if I just do this and I go back, you can see this ball has moved 200 pixels. Okay, so that is cool. So that means I can also move it in the negative, just like that. It can also move this side. So you have the positive side and the negative side, and then you have the duration. Okay, you can also have the ease. Okay, and now if you want to look at the ease, where you can get these timing functions, you go to GSAP and you can search here ease visualizer. So type in ease visualizer here, and then they will give you this visualizer here. So you can see there is power 1, there is power 2, power 3, and you can also check in this. You can change in and out. Okay, you can have that. So you can have power 4 and maybe in out. Okay, you can have those like that, and then after you have gotten the one you want, you can just come here and you can copy like this. Okay, just come and bring here like power in out. This is how you specify the ease in, and you can really animate all the properties. You can animate the width, you can animate scale, opacity. So all the properties you think of, you can actually animate them. Okay, you can animate them, and then you separate these properties by a comma. Okay, you can animate all these properties, and when you're using these two methods, the two method takes in the initial properties as these properties that you set here are going to be used as the initial properties. For instance, if we change the background, okay, and if you're going to write something from CSS that has to like this, so you can't use something like this. Okay, you can see even it shows an error. Something which properties from CSS that has a minus in between, here we put them in camel casing. Okay, just like this. Make sure this one is capital, so you have something like this in camel casing. Okay, so now let's see what we have right now. Okay, so this is the animation we have. Okay, and you can go ahead and repeat. So we have the repeat, and you can repeat a number of times you want, like 2. So if I put 2, and you see that the animation is going to run more 2 times. Okay, and then you can have also run for infinity. Okay, if you put -1, is going to run until like the infinity. Okay, just like that. And then you can also add more property, for instance a yo-yo property. So this yo-yo property, you set it true, and this one is going to make sure that it reverses when it reaches at the end. Instead of jumping back, it simply just reverses the animation. Okay, and then this one is really cool. Okay, so you can have something like that. Okay, so this one is the 2 method. Let's just go ahead to another lesson, and we look some other methods that we can apply. So I'm just going to close this. I'm just going to open. I'm just going to leave this one on. I'm just going to go to 3 and just open this. Okay, and I'm just going to go live. So the first thing, I'm just going to create app.js. I'll create app.js. Okay, I'll create app.js, and I'll go ahead and go live. So we have the same thing, and into this we are going to look at another method called set. Okay, so we have another method of GSAP called set, and in this method, so I'm just going to have set GSAP set. So this one is GSAP set method. So GSAP set method is used to set the properties that you want to be initial state. Okay, so you can first set the initial properties of an item you want to animate. So you can see we have this, and initially if you check here, let me first remove these ones. So if you check here, we have this this as now in the 2 methods that we have seen previously. It was using these ones as the initial properties. Okay, so in this set GSAP set, you can actually set your own initial properties without using CSS. Okay, that's why I just going to comment these ones out just like this. and we can add all these figures that are here. We can add them from JavaScript. So for instance, we can say gsap.set. So you can just say gsap.set, and then we can set properties, and we first selector. We first do the selector, which is the ball, and then I'm just going to pass in an object, and then first I'm just going to give it a width of 100 pixels. And by the way, you don't have to specify the pixels, just put 100. This one is automatically 100 pixels, and then you put height, and then height of 100 pixels, and then put comma. Let's give a border radius, okay, of 50%. So if you have a number like a percentage, you can put in the quotes, just like 50%, just like so. And let's put others like a background color. So I'm just going to go to CSS and get this background color. So just put here background color, change this to camel case, background color, and then put this one in quotes. Okay, make sure that this is inside here, and remove this. Okay, so this is the GSAP set. Okay, this is the GSAP set. So these properties, they will be set onto this item, and you can see we are setting them. It does not animate. The set property of GSAP does not do anything like animations. The purpose is to set the initial properties. Okay, so it sets the initial properties, and after setting the initial properties, of course, you can go ahead and then add you can go ahead and animate. So you can now add the GSAP 2. Okay, you can add the GSAP 2 now, like this. Okay, and let's say you add that. So let's just come here, make this one. So I'm just going to say, for instance, here rotation, I'm just going to add to 0. Okay, and then here I'm just going to say 2. I'm just going to put rotation, and I'm just going to rotate to 360 degrees. And then another thing I'm just going to put is the color. So let me just go ahead and change these two. Border radius, okay, just like so. I can change the border radius now to 0. So if I'm putting 0, I can specify 0 here, and then this I can just change this to tier. Okay, just like this. And another thing I can just do is I can just do this in a duration of 3 seconds. A duration of 3 seconds. And let's see, rotation 360. Let's first look at this. Okay, so we have that, and let's make this one too about 1 second. Okay, and we can just make this one infinite. Okay, we can just make this one to repeat. You put -1. So if you just go back here, you have that. Okay, and of course you can add all the properties we had seen before. You can actually add them. You can add them here. Okay, you can add them here to create really nice animations. So here we can say scale. So you can also do scale of maybe 0.5. Okay, and then down here you can just come and you do scale of, you can just come and do scale of maybe 1.5. Okay, so you can also just do that. You can see that. So you can create any animation that you want. Okay, so this is a nice one. Okay, of course you can add as many as possible. So this is how we use the GSAP set method. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the next method. So let me just close this and let's go to the another method, and this is going on to the other two methods. So we have finished the to and the set. So here you're going to look at the from and the fromTo. Okay, so let me just go live. Let me first create here app.js. Okay, so after creating app.js, if you look into I have already have the script and I've connected it here. I'm just going to go live. Okay, so we have the same rectangle, but this time we want to look at these two methods, the from and fromTo. So I'm just going to first make this one about 50 pixels, and let's go back. We have this this bar. Now want to first talk about these two methods. So we have the from method, GSAP from method. So GSAP from method is just the opposite of the to method. Okay, so we have already seen GSAP to. Now this one is GSAP from, meaning, for instance, this one in the GSAP to, okay, the state that were defined in CSS were the initial state. So these ones were the initial state when you're using the GSAP 2. So if you had a background or you have a border radius of 50, this one will be used as the initial state, and then whatever you would assign in the 2 will be the final state. Now in this case, if you're using the from, okay, it will use these ones as the final, and then the ones you define in here, they will be used as initial. Okay, so for instance, if we say GSAP, okay, and then we say to, and then here we say .ball, and then I'm just going to pass in the object, and then I'm just going to say, for instance, so we could just say from x of negative maybe 900. Okay, and let's just say this one should take a duration of maybe 3 seconds. So let's just look at that. So you can see it is going. So this is the from, you get, this is the from, not to, by the way, just put here from. So this is supposed to be the from, and then to use this one, it will use the x here 0 as the, so it will come from this side coming to this point. Okay, let me refresh. So just like this is the from method. Okay, so all the properties you define here, they will be used as the from method. If I say background green, if we say background to maybe pink, so this will be the default, or it will be the initial color, and then the one that you specified here will be the final color. So you see it comes from pink and comes to this one. Okay, so that is the from method. Now we have another one which is fromTo. So we have another one which is GSAP dot from 2. As you can see, it has the from and the to at the same time, so it is combining this, and then it's also combining the two, both of them. Okay, so from to, it takes in the selector, which is the ball, and then it here it takes in two objects. Okay, it takes in the two objects, and the first one is this one, the from. So let me just go ahead and copy whatever you have into this one. Okay, so I'm just going to comment out this. So this, what we have here is the from. Okay, so this one is the start or the initial state. So this one becomes the initial state, and whatever you define here becomes the final state. Okay, so for instance, if I just say background red, so if I come here and I say background red, and here you don't need to put duration. Duration is put into this here. So here, let's say the background is going to be orange. Okay, and then here say it is pink, or let's say actually green, and then let's say here x is 0. Okay, or in fact, let's say x is 500. Just like this. If I just go back to this, you see it is coming from this side. Okay, let's put here x maybe 400. Okay, so it starts at negative 900, and you can see it comes up to here on x is equal to 400. Okay, so this is the from to. You have the initial state, and then you also have the final state in the same in the two objects. So these two from to method, I find it very nice because you can set all the properties, and then you'll be seeing looking at them at the same time. You see what you are changing here and what you are so changing here. Okay, now the values that you don't define here, if for instance you have some values defined in CSS, of course they will be used on the initial state here. But if you have any defined here in JavaScript, it will change these values that you have in CSS. The ones that you have not changed, they will use the default ones in CSS. Okay, so that is the from and the from to methods. I'm just go ahead close this, and then we go to our next method, and the next method is the stagger. Let me open this in VS Code. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and create the app.js. Okay, and then in my CSS this time, in this I have many balls. Have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have all these ones. Let me just go ahead and go live. Okay, and I've already connected my app.js, so everything should be fine. And let's also look at the CSS. So if you look at the CSS, we have the width, we have this background color, and this is what we have. Okay, so we have these 4 rectangles. Okay, so we have these rectangles, and we're just going to look at GSAP stagger. Now GSAP stagger actually is not a method, so it is actually a property, or it is a property on any of these other methods. Okay, so the stagger property, we can see it on maybe on the 2. So let's just say GSAP.2, and we can select the ball and then we can pass in an object. For instance, we can start with the rotation of maybe a rotation of 360, and let's say in a duration of 3 seconds. Okay, if you just do that, you'll see that these items, they are rotating at the same time. Let's go ahead and actually give it a repeat. Let's give it a repeat of infinity. Let's make this one maybe 1.5. Okay, so you can see they are repeating. And let me also give them a yo-yo property, set this to true, and let's see what happens. Okay, so this is nice. Okay, and then you can just go ahead and maybe give them a move. So I can just say x of 10 pixels. Okay. Okay, and you just move them maybe about 50 pixels. Okay, so we have this kind of animation right now. So in the stagger, you can see that all these properties are all actually animating at the same time. Okay, so sometimes if you want this, you would maintain this kind of animation whereby you have all the properties animating at the same time. But most cases, what you might want is you want to animate one. When it finishes, then the second one animates, and at that time we can use what we call the stagger property. So this is where the stagger comes from. So you can put stagger, and what you do with the stagger, you pass in the number of seconds you want one item to finish, then another one to start. Okay, so if I put like 1, it will take like 1 second for one to finish, then it gives the second one, just like that. And you can see it creates this really nice nice animation, just like that. Look at that. So this is a good one. Okay, you can have this as your animation. Okay, so this is the stagger property, and this is how you use it in your animation. Okay, so let's just close this and we go to the next method. So I'm just going to close out this, and I'm just going to go to the next one, which is actually the GSAP control. So I just open this in VS Code, and I'm just going to first add the app.js. Okay, so I'll just add the app.js, and then if you look at the setup we have in the HTML is somehow different. So this time we have the ball, and down here we have the buttons. Okay, so if I just go back and I go live, let's go live. And you will have the access to this code. You'll find the link in the description, and you can actually just find the final code. So we have here these 3 buttons, and we have this ball. So I will make this ball come from this left going to right. Okay, and I know right now that is very easy. You can just come to the app, and we can use GSAP, and I can use GSAP fromTo, and in this GSAP fromTo I first give the selector, which is the ball, and then I can just go ahead and put these 2 objects. The first object I put the initial properties, and then the second one the final properties. In the first one, I just want to put x to be -900, and this one will push this off the canvas. It will just hide it on the left. And now here, I'm just going to change, let me also change the background. So here, x, want to give the x of maybe also 800. So if I just do this one is going to make it move from this side to this side, and I can just increase the duration. So you can just say here it should happen in 3 seconds, and then if you do that, you'll see that the animation is just like that. Let's make maybe 5 seconds, and then what I can also do is I'm just going to make this one repeat. Okay, I'm just going to make this one repeat just like that, and you can also just go ahead and give all these other properties the way you want them. So you can see you have the this animating, and now it is going to come from this side just like that. And maybe they just reduce this one. Let me just add 500, and then this one also 600, and let me see okay, so we have the animation just like that. And let's also animate the colors. So I want the background to be maybe green. Okay, so it is going to be transforming just like that. Okay, and then it starts from green again and going back to this side, and that's because we have this yo-yo set true. Okay, so what we want is now is want to control this animation, for instance using these buttons. Okay, if we click on these buttons, we want to be able to control this animation. Okay, so the first thing, I'm just going to bring all my buttons into JavaScript. So on top here, I'm just go ahead and select all my buttons. So here, select all the buttons, and if you look at the buttons in the HTML, they have these IDs. I'm just going to select using these IDs. So const play btn is going to be equal to document dot get element by ID, and I'm just going to pass in this ID. And then for other two buttons, I'm just going to simply copy and paste this 2 times, and then I'm just going to change this from play to pause. So we have another one, which is the pause button if you check in the HTML, and then the restart button. So I'm just going to go back here, and then I change this one to the restart. So you can have also the restart button just like that. Okay, so now if you want to add the animation, GSAP exposes on every animation, it exposes some other functions, and it exposes 3 functions. So for every animation, it exposes the play function, and then we have also the pause function, and then it also have the restart function. So it exposes, and these ones exist on any animation, meaning you can chain them onto an animation. Now, so what we are going to do is const ball animation. I'm going to save this animation here, the one we have here. I'm just going to save it into this one, and this one doesn't change anything here right now. The animation continues moving on. Now what I want to do is onto these buttons, I can say, for instance, the play btn dot add event listener, and then I'm just going to add a click, and then after I'm just going to run a function. Okay, I'm just going to run a function where I'm just going to call ball animation dot play, just like this. And this one, remember, is a function, so you just click like this, and then I'm just going to do for the remaining ones just like that, just like that. So this second one is the pause. Okay, so the pause btn, you call the pause function, and then the restart btn, you call for the restart function. So just like this. Okay, so now if I just go back to my buttons, just like this, if the animation is moving on, for instance is coming, I can pause it and then I can play it. I can pause again and let's play. Now I can restart. You can see the restart, what it is doing. I can always restart. You can pause, of course, and you can play. And this is the power of this function that exists onto the animations. Okay, so this was the controlling animations using these functions given by GSAP. Let's look at our next method, and the next method is, let's look at the timeline before we look at the scroll trigger. So I'm just going to open this and I'm just going to go to the timeline. Okay, just you have these two files. Let me go ahead and create app.js. Okay, so in our CSS this time I have a different structure. Let me first click to go live. I have a different structure. Let's first look at it. Okay, so it has opened here. Okay, so right now we have this text. Down we have these balls, which this is very much okay. So we have this here. We have the button, and then down here you have these 4 balls, and then I also have this text here. Okay, so what I want is I want to put the animations. Now in this case what we want to look at is the timeline. So what is the timeline? So the timeline, the GSAP timeline actually is chaining of, this involves chaining of animations, chaining of different animations. So here you can chain a bunch of animations all together in a row. Okay, so let's say we want to animate this heading to come from this side. Maybe it flies in, and then we have this text to come from this side to the left, and then we have this button also to jump in. Okay, so let's see how I would do this. So we have 3 animations. So the first one is animate the heading, animate the heading. So we want to first animate the heading. Okay, and then we also want to animate the paragraph. Okay, and then finally want to animate the button. Okay, so want to animate these 3 things here. Now if we do the normal animation, for instance for the heading, I have here this heading and it has this class heading. I can select that. So for instance we can just say animate the heading. We can call the GSAP, and then onto this one we can call, for instance, the from. Okay, we could just call the from method onto this, and then here you can just say dot heading, just like this, and then I can pass in the object. So already what we mean the from, right now it will take, if you use the from method as we said, it goes in CSS and it looks at these final properties. So these ones, they will be the final properties. Okay, and then so the ones we will define, they will be the initial properties. Okay, so for this from, I can just say x to be from maybe -200, Okay, so if I just set that, you can see what it is doing. It is coming from that and is taking this one to, so you can just say duration of maybe 1.5 seconds. Let's look at that. Okay, so it slides in very well. Let's look at that. So you can see it slides in very well. And then we can go ahead and also animate the paragraph. Okay, so just copy this and paste it here on animate paragraph. Let's just put here paragraph. Okay, paragraph, and let's give it a right. So here we just need to give it a x of maybe 200. Let's look at that, and let's make it maybe something like 500. Okay, so just like that. Maybe, yep, I think that one is okay. So let's also animate the button. So for the button, pass in the button here, and we can just this one we can animate it from y, and let's have a y of 50. Okay, just like that. And if you look at it how it moves in, let's also give it opacity of 0. So you can see opacity of 0. So it just starts when just like this. So if you look at these animations, they are all happening at the same time. Okay, they are all happening at the same time. So the first solution you would do is going to each individual animation, and then you add in the delay. So you say after this one takes 1.5 seconds, I want this one to delay. So it has to delay the same amount of time the first one took. Maybe after it has delayed like that, you can just go, and now you can see it first delays. Okay, and you can take it off the screen by increasing this number maybe to 800. So but you see it will first delay, then it comes after that time. So you just go and calculate for each individual animation you have in your website, and quickly this one becomes a mathematics project rather than concentrating on the animation. So instead of relying on the delays, calculating the delays based on the previous animation, you just have to use the GSAP timeline. Okay, so what happens in the timeline? So in the timelines, we actually we chain different animations together, one to happen after the other. So the first thing, if you want to use the timeline, we first come here and define the timeline. Tr is equal to GSAP is equal to GSAP.timeline, just like this. Now this tier is not a must to be tier. You can name it anything you want, but we're going to use just tier for simplicity. So after you have created the timeline, now you can chain all these animations. They can be chained onto the timeline. So one start with the heading, then after the heading, want to chain the paragraph, and then after the paragraph, want to chain the animation for the button. Okay, want to change the animation for the button. So I'm just going to cut all these ones, put them on top here. This is how we want to change these three animations. So the first one is the timeline. After I've created a timeline, now instead of using GSAP, now we'll be chaining everything onto this timeline. So just come here and you say tr. So tr.from. So this is the first chain. We chain on the tier, we chain this first one. Then instead of finishing this one from here, we actually just go ahead and chain this second one. Okay, so you can chain it from there. In fact, you can put all these ones on the new line, they will still work just like this. Remove this and then chain this here just like this. So you can chain as many as you want, just like this. You can chain all of them. Now this time you can see they wait for one to finish and then another one takes place. Okay, and for this one I just really want to take it off the screen. Let's try 900, and this one let's try 300. Now if we play again, you see this one comes in, and then even this one comes in. And this is the power of the GSAP timeline. You don't have to calculate the delays. You simply actually just write your animations and then they will happen. Okay, so this is it has been the GSAP timeline. And if you're liking the concept, please like the video and also hit that subscribe button so that we can keep making more content for you guys. So let's go to the next one, and actually the big one of all, which is the ScrollTrigger. Okay, so go this site and let's open this. Let's open this, and I'm just going to create app.js. Okay, so I'm creating this app.js file, and then I've connected this already down here. So now let's talk about GSAP before we actually even come to have these scripts. Okay, so GSAP it has plugins. If you go back to the GSAP documentation and specifically go back to the installation, now on the installation page, if you scroll down here, you will notice we have the npm, and if you click on the CDN and then you scroll down here, you will see that you have import and include plugins. So the one we have been using has been the core GSAP. There was no any plugin we had used. So if you want to use these plugins, you can go and read more about them. But the one you are going to use right now, and the most used in all of them, is the ScrollTrigger. Okay, so if you click onto this plugin, you can see right now is not checked. Okay, you see right now is not checked. So if you go ahead and check it, or you click on it, it checks, and then it adds another one more link down here. So you see we had this first one, which is the core GSAP library, and then it has here, it also exposes the GSAP ScrollTrigger. So just copy these two lines, Ctrl C, then go to your code and make sure you update these ones down. So like you need to have these two down here. Okay, this is how I came to have these two links. And then of course create your own app.js. Okay, now the first thing that you have to do with when you're using plugins, the first thing is to register the plugin. So you have to register the plugin so that the GSAP core library works seamlessly with the plugin. Okay, so you have to first register the plugin, and to register the plugin, we write GSAP dot register plugin. Okay, so just use the register plugin, and then here we pass in the ScrollTrigger, and then the ScrollTrigger, it has to be all the capital C and capital T. If you are doubting, just come here and type register. So you can type in register, and you see here registering plugin, and you just reach here and you can see gsap.register plugin, and then you pass in the plugins that you want to use in your project. And that's how you have the first step you have to do is to register the plugin. Okay, so just go and run go live after we have registered our plugin. So right now I have this welcome ScrollTrigger, and then this text. Then down here I have nothing. Let's see in our CSS. Okay, we have this one is hidden. Let me first put this one back so that you see what we're having. So we have these 1, 2, 3, 4 balls, and then we have also this one. So what we want to do is want to apply some animations onto these balls, and then afterwards want to apply animate on scroll. Okay, want the animation to happen only on the scroll or to be triggered by the scroll. So the first thing, I'm just going to hide them so that we do the two animation. So I'm just going to go to the app, and I can just quickly say GSAP, and I call the two method. Okay, and really whichever method you apply, it doesn't actually matter. It is depending on understanding what the method is capable of or how to use that method. By the time you actually do like this an example, I feel like you should be knowing what each of these methods can do. If you want to use your CSS or if you don't want to use your CSS, it depends on you. Okay, so I'm just going to come here and I select this the ball. If you come and check onto this one, into this section, you can see this is the ball, and I'm just going to use it here, dot ball, and then I can just go ahead and I say, for instance, so by default want to hide them. So this is why I'm putting transform translate 900. They are going to be pushed off the canvas, as you can see. Now if I just go ahead and I say x to 0, so I'm just going to say you push this x to 0, and let's say duration. Okay, and you say duration of 3 like this, of 3 seconds. So if I just do this, you see that they will actually just all of them floating just very well, just like that. Okay, so they are all floating in just like that. If I just like do it again, you can see all of them are floating in just like that. So the first thing is, want this animation that is happening to only happen on scroll. Right now it is happening on the page load. Okay, so what we can just do, you can pass in all the properties you want here. Okay, all the properties you want. Then after, you can also apply in the another property called the scroll trigger. Okay, and now this scroll trigger is an object, and then you can pass in all the properties for the scroll trigger inside here. And the first one is actually the trigger itself. What is going to trigger the scroll? So in this case, let's just pass in the ball itself. Okay, and not necessarily you can use the ball, you can use anything or any element within the DOM. Okay, so if I just go back now, let's just move up and let's refresh. So at this point, I've waited enough onto this. If I scroll, we should see something. So scroll, and you can see they have come in. Okay, and we can just go ahead and even apply our stagger. So just come here and apply stagger. Okay, and of course you can stagger by 1, and this one, if we do it, one will come, another one comes, just like that. And if you just want to take maybe more, you can just say 3, and this will take 3 seconds for one to come. So you see, one comes, lands in, another one comes, just like that, another one comes, just like that, and then another one comes, just like that. Okay, so just make 2, maybe let's leave it at 2. So now we can go ahead and define more nice things on trigger. If you go on this website for GSAP, you see that they have a lot of interactions that they're having. Okay, you can see they have a lot of interactions that are happening, and I guess you can actually try these ones when you have something like this. Applying the rotate is not hard, so you know, you can just sit down and try to say, can I make these animations just like that? But I want to show you the the animation, so you can see this one pops up, and when I scroll up, it is tied on the scroll position. When someone scrolls, like you see that, like it is tied on the scroll position. And even when you bypass and then you come back, it is still animating. Ours only animates once, so you just go to this here. If you just move down and then you go up, the animation does only happen only once. Okay, so if you want the animation to happen every time you come here, okay, you have to add something here called toggle actions. So you can say toggle actions, and in these toggle actions you can have the first option is for the on enter, and on enter, every time it enters the viewport, we want it to restart the animation. Okay, now others by default you can just say none, none, and none. Now this first one is on mouse enter, this one is on this is on enter, this one is on leave, on I think this one is on enter back, and then this one is on leave back. So you can have this one, what we are meaning, if this trigger enters the viewport, then we should restart the animation. Okay, so this time, if even if you go down, and I'm just going to make this one to be 1 second, the duration. In fact, I just make this duration to be this tagger, first of all, is to be 1, and then this duration, let it be also maybe 0.6, so it is somehow faster. You get just like that. So every time you enter the viewport, it is going to animate. Instead of animating only once, this time every time you enter the viewport, it is going to enter to start the animation. One more property, some other property is to tie the animation onto this. Okay, is tie the animation onto the scroll position. So that one we use another property called scrub. So just can pass in scrub, and then you can on the scrub you can pass in any now. Actually, you can just say scrub, and you can pass in maybe 2. So you can pass in any number here, and when you pass in a number like 2, now if we are animating, you see that it is tied on the scroll. Let me first remove the stagger so that we see this very well. Okay, okay, so you can see every time you are moving up like this, and it gives that nice smooth scrolling. And I'm just going to put scrub to 1. Okay, so now as you are moving up, you can see that every time the scroll position is tied to the animation when you are moving up, or if you are moving down. Okay, one more thing we can do is the right now it is having the default where it is starting. Sometimes you want the animation not to start immediately when you enter the viewport. So when this viewport enters, now the animation starts. So what we might want is after some time, so for instance we can just say when the animation should start, and also when the animation should end. So I can specify these two here, the start and the end. Okay, so in the start you can pass in something like top, and you say when the top this top, when the top of the trigger element, that's the top of the ball, meets the 80% of the viewport. And then down here you can see when the top of the trigger element meets the 30% of the viewport, then it should end the animations. Now to visualize this, I can put something called markers, and you can say markers to true. Okay, and you just see, so you can see we have the markers. Okay, we have the markers, and this the start and the end. They mean the top of this one item. I can first take off this border radius so that we can visualize this. Okay, and let me just put in just like that. So what it means is that this start and end is just the top of this ball here, and then these two, you can see that the first one we said the start. If you look at the start, this marks the from the viewport. So these two figures, the percentages are put here. These ones are the viewport. Okay, so the viewport, when the viewport is 80%, the animation should start. So this is from here up to here, this scroll, the green thing here, that is the viewport height of 80. So when this comes in touch like so, like when this start here meets this scroll start, the animation starts. You see that? So the animation starts, and when this end meets this scroll end, the animation ends. Okay, so that is how this works. Okay, this is how this one works. When this end meets the end, or when this means the scroll start, the animation begins. Okay, so another thing we can just explore is actually the pin. Okay, is actually the pin. So just come here and you say pin, and you set this to true. Okay, so when you just do that, what it means is that during when it is animating, instead of moving up, this time it is going to first finish the animation. Okay, it will have to first, let me just scroll back to 100 instead of zooming, so you have this refresh. So we have this what is this? Let's just add, maybe only put let me put only one. You can try on only one item, and let's just go and make this to 100, so that is big enough. Okay, so you can see this, and let's see the properties we are animating here. I'm animating only X, and then this pin, let's just go ahead and put pin spacing. So you have to go ahead and say pin spacing to true. Okay, just like that. So when you do this pin spacing to true, it will add some space down like that. Okay, as it is animating. I don't know why it is behaving like that. Okay, so what this pin means is that while it is animating here, when it starts the animation at this point here and you are scrolling up, it is still pinned. You can see it is not moving up. If I remove these two, if I remove the pin and the pin spacing, you will see that as you are scrolling, it is moving up. You can see it is going up with the page, okay, as you are moving. But while you are, if you pin, you are trying to mean while the animation is happening, it should be pinned. Okay, and this is exactly what they are doing here. As you are animating, you see that this is pinned. The animation is happening and it is pinned, just like that. Then when all of it ends, now it can actually scroll up, and that is what pin actually means. So let's just go here. So you see, as you are scrolling, it is still pinned, and then when the animation ends, it can now move up with others. Okay, so this is really good, and this marks the end of the first part where we have covered all these um, these amazing methods. Now finally we come on to our project. So this project, I'm just going to start it in just the next episode. So in the next episode that is coming up next, I'm just going to start onto this project, and we see how we can actually implement the animations that we are going to put into this. We will add the animate on scroll. We'll have all these ones are floating in, so it will be a nice project to put onto your portfolio. See you in that video.